Oh, hello. I'm award-winning science educator and the Chris Hemsworth you ordered off of Wish.com, Kyle Hill. You know, when you have a multi-billion-dollar secret facility like I do, it's not enough to just do your own research. You want to share it with the world. And I regularly do that with my remote iPhone. That's why I thought today's episode would be good if it was sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community centered around thousands of classes and courses that inspire creativity and creation. I just finished iPhone filmmaking, create cinematic video with your phone, and it showed me why my selfie videos are so gross looking. Angles. It's all about angles, it turns out. If you want to try Skillshare like I did, the first 1,000 of you nerds that go down into the description and click the link get to try Skillshare Premium for free on me. And after the trial is over, it's only about $10 per month. You're welcome. Now on to today's episode. Wait for it. You know who you are. Hey, it's your boy Kyle Hill here. Let's get one thing straight. Look, I know that sometimes I may give off some supervillain-y kind of vibes and that the glowing-eyed giant skulls don't help that image, but it's not like I designed and was paid a bunch of money for something that turned out to be an accidental death ray that damaged people and property. Yet, what I'm saying is, I'm not like this guy, the death ray architect.
Now entering the facility.
When you picture a death ray, you're probably thinking of something traditional like this, a big heckin' laser intent on atomizing people, pets, places, planets, another P word. What you're probably not picturing is something like this, a skyscraper. Buildings like those you see before you. But I assure you, at one point, these enormous edifices were indeed wielding dangerous beams of energy. And again, before we get really into it here, I want to stress that I have nothing to do with this. During the summer of 2013, the people of London started to notice that for about 2 hours a day, the glare coming off of the 20 Fenchurch Street building was extraordinarily intense, like creating temperatures past the boiling point of water intense, 6 times brighter than the sun intense. Reporters traveled to the site to cook eggs with the glare of the so-called walkie-talkie building. The radiation bouncing off this towering glass structure was melting cars. 3 years earlier, bathers in the shadow of the Vdara Hotel in Las Vegas started complaining that the pool was getting too hot and that their shopping bags were melting. One dude who fell asleep on the pool deck even had his hair, which definitely wasn't plugs, singed. Hotel employees told the media they called it the Vdara Death Ray. 2 buildings, 2 extremely energetic events. Where were these death rays coming from? They came, believe it or not, from the very same guy, an architect named Raphael Viñoly. For whatever reason, my dude here just loves designing buildings that at some point in time become death rays. I mean, the buildings and their outsides look fine, I guess, but what my man's here has in effect done is design the outside of buildings to mimic the activity of a very specific kind of reflector, what's called a concave mirror. But there's no supervillain giant magnifying glass or laser beam, so how is he weaponizing the outside of buildings, allegedly? I mean, he's not doing it on purpose. Join me outside for a demonstration, won't you? You remember outside. You know where the people are and the stuff is to do? Grab your mask. After being stuck in the sun's core for up to 100,000 years and after traveling over 100 million kilometers, photons of light from the sun come streaming through Earth's atmosphere to make your selfies look terrible. Hey, that's what apps are for. But in the context of stuff reflecting off of other stuff, I ask you this question. How do we encounter these photons of light? Is it a chaotic mess of wavelengths or is it something more orderly? Well, let's make a little diagram out of paper, like you do in the park when it's windy. So here we have the sun and here we have the Earth. Obviously, these are not to scale and the sizes are different. This would be 1,000,000 times smaller than that in volume. Don't worry about it. What's important is the photons of light coming out from the sun here. They're coming out in all directions in 3-dimensional space, way too many to show you with little pieces of paper. But here's the important question I want to ask you. Which of these light rays are actually going to hit our planet? One full astronomical 1 full astronomical unit away. Well, it can't be these rays of light that are separated by a large angle, right? Because even a small-ish angle multiplied over 94 million miles is going to mean that at least one of these will miss the Earth when it travels that space. No, instead, it has to be rays of light coming out of the sun that have almost no angle between them at all. Almost parallel. The fact that basically only parallel rays of light from the sun make their way to Earth and interact with us is the main reason why something like a magnifying glass or a mirror can concentrate the awesome power of that great fusion reactor in the sky that we call the sun. Why do you even have a yoga ball out here, Kevin? It doesn't make any sense. Go over there. Go. Now recall the concave mirror shape we mentioned when talking about Raphael Vignoli's buildings. If light from a distant star were coming in at all different angles, when they reflected off of it, it would be chaos. There wouldn't be any combined point to concentrate the intensity of the sun. But with nearly parallel rays of light coming in from a distant star, the reflections can actually create what's called a focal point right here with a concave reflective shape, which can take the about 1,000 watts per square meter intensity from the sun and concentrate it into something a lot more intense. Observe! Here is a concave mirror I got from my brothers over at Vsauce in one of their curiosity boxes. Now, like I was just mentioning with the shape associated with Vignoli's buildings, with this concave mirror, if I can find its own focal point in the correct orientation with the sun, I should be able to bring something up to its ignition point fairly quickly and show how you can turn a building or that kind of shape into a death ray. So, let me just set this up nice and... Oh! Kevin, I'm doing science here.
Be nice to him. He's just a boy.
I know. I created him. Okay, so if we can find the same focal point on our concave mirror here, we should be able to quickly demonstrate how to harness the awesome power of the great life giver in the sky. That's what I call it. What do you call it? Here we go. Just gotta find the focal point where all the almost immediate smoking. Could you imagine this happening to your head while you were vacationing in Vegas and being all gross? I sure couldn't. Ha! Success! See, all you really need to turn something into a death ray is a nice curved reflective surface, parallel rays of light from the sun. Now I know many of you are way ahead of me on this, but all this physics brings us back to our very own death ray architect. Oh! Right in the... With our newfound knowledge about how light from the sun comes into Earth's atmosphere and reflects off of stuff, let's look at Vignoli's architecture once again. Looking closely, it definitely looks like his buildings are at least partial giant concave mirrors, don't they? Well then, the best physical explanation for what's going on here is that for a certain number of days in the year, for a certain number of hours in the day, the specific orientation and shape of the Fenchurch Street building and the Vdara Hotel create solar focal points near the ground floor of both of these buildings that burn bathers and end up melting Miatas, or Mercedes, or Jaguar. Who cares? Now, I should say that my legal representatives have advised me to say this.
Don't get sued, my guy.
I do not personally think, nor am I alleging, that Raphael Vignoli intentionally created death rays. I do not think he's a supervillain at all. He actually claims that he had no idea this would happen. Oh, it's hot outside. It wasn't a direct quote. But what if he was a supervillain? Now, if I were a supervillain architect working for, I don't know, Lex Luthor, but the cool Lex Luthor like Gene Hackman, not the insufferable Lex Luthor like Jesse Eisenberg, I can imagine a structure using the same death ray / concave mirror shape that creates a kind of solar convergence in all directions. If done correctly, and depending on the weather of course, you could make a kind of transient, dangerous moat of solar energy that deterred and or outright destroyed, let's say, people?
Don't get sued, my dude.
I mean, just cars and eggs and gross hair in Vegas. Yeah, let's go with that. My dear facility faculty and staff, let this unfortunate collision between vision and reality be a lesson to you. So often, science needs art and art needs science. They both need each other to function properly, because if you don't heed this lesson, you might accidentally become the next death ray architect, which again, I would never want to be.
Construction of the quicksand football field is at 97%.
Until next time. Why you always gotta be blowing my spot up like that? Like they weren't supposed to find out until they were sinking in it.
Now exiting the facility.
Thank you so much to the very nerdy staff at the facility for their direct and substantial support in the creation of this here video. Today especially, I want to recognize Research Assistant S.F. Edwards and Visiting Scholar, the bespectacled and very handsome Joe Hansen. If you want to join the facility, if you want to get on staff and drape on a silky white lab coat, join me in Discord every day, get behind the scenes photos, see videos early, get private members-only live streams with yours truly, not like that. You can go to patreon.com/Kyle Hill and join the It's up there. Join the facility today. And hey, if you support us just enough, you get your name here on Aria each and every week. As you can see, there's literally hundreds and hundreds of you. I have no idea how I'm going to pass the time. Okay, so a little bit of epilogue here. So even though Raphael Vanoli, he claimed he had no idea this would happen. He's like, well, maybe it's climate change. It's not. You built a giant mirror. He didn't know this was going to happen, but since then they've tried to make the building less reflective, buff up the mirrors, and try to put some non-reflective material on it to make the effect not as bad. But there was still the added effect, because it was curved, the curved would focus wind, which it gets, the velocity of wind gets much higher once you get a couple of stories off the ground. The wind would be focused downward, kind of like the light from the sun, but it would be focused downward such that the downdrafts off of these buildings would, quote, knock people off their feet. Now, I'm not saying he's trying to do anything, but it doesn't not seem like that, you know? Thanks for watching.